All right, let's get right to it. Look, this week the president gave his State of the Union address. And look, as I told Valerie Jarrett, he's not somebody who's going to throw some roundhouses, but he has some stiff jabs in his speech, Robert. And it was very interesting when he basically said, we had this big debt ceiling fight. What did we get out of that whole deal? I mean, that was some direct challenges to members of Congress saying, it's time for you to get off your butt and do some work.
It was a political speech against the do-nothing Congress in the presidential year. He did what he had to do. And, you know, although I didn't agree with everything he said in the speech, I actually admired him because it reminded me of the Barack Obama in 2008. The Barack Obama who was the challenger, who quite frankly had everything to gain and nothing to lose, who quite frankly said, look, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. Either you're going to lead with me, you're going to follow me, or get the heck out of the way.
You know what's funny is, as like probably everyone else at this table, I was live tweeting the State of the Union address. And do you know what single comment got the most retweets of anything I wrote that night? I said if this piece had a subtitle, it would be, "You want a piece of me." And that got retweeted out the wazoo because it was the most, I felt, tough, in-your-face messaging, like Robert's saying, that we've heard from him. And a lot of people have been waiting for that, especially in the black community. I've heard from a lot of people
Hillary,
say, I want to hear him fighting.
On policy, in this speech, first of all, what stood out, you talked about the education, college credit, also the plan for home foreclosures. Let's be honest, the president's plans, there have been multiple ones when it comes to dealing with the foreclosure crisis, they've been an abysmal failure. So this is like a restart after a restart after a restart. What was the biggest policy initiative for you in the speech?
Well, it's manufacturing, quite frankly. He reclaimed what the U.S. has always been best at. If there's one industry that's moved more African Americans and other Americans to the middle class, it's manufacturing. And tying those to good living wage jobs that are union jobs as well, and the benefits that go along with that. But then recognize that you can't do that in a vacuum. You also have to talk about training and education and other opportunities.
That's where the community colleges came in.
Right. Community colleges came in, retraining came in, mentorship programs came in. All that's extremely important as we move our nation forward.
And the suggestion for states to have students either graduate or stay in school until 18.
How perfect was it for Mitt Romney to release his taxes on the exact same day of the State of the Union address? I'm sure Mitt's people thought it would get buried with the State of the Union, but it dovetailed what the president gave in the speech.
But you know what, though? But it totally did. It played right into the president's hand. However, it still neutralized the issue to a certain degree. We know that Mitt Romney is a wealthy man. We know that Mitt Romney has been stumbling on the whole wealth issue. So from a strategic standpoint, it was a loss, but not a big loss for Romney to release it on Tuesday night.
But it made the president's point. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, no, and I was going to say also when he threw out that number about the Buffett tax. I think for a lot of Americans that was kind of a fluid idea, but when you hear the word million, you hear the term $1 million in Buffett tax, and then you hear someone else was able to give, $350,000 in speaking fees isn't a lot of money, $7 million to charity, it's not that much.
Oh yeah, but also shifting millions of dollars into these trusts for his children.
And Switzerland.
And
Switzerland.
But here's what I thought you were about to say in terms of the narrative. We heard this Warren Buffett deal for the longest, the Buffett rule. I think Americans were sitting here going, okay, I really don't see it.
Right.
So by Mitt Romney releasing it, you actually saw, here's a guy who said, I'm unemployed, I don't have a job, but he made $40 million in a couple of years.
That's right.
Who wasn't working solely based off of the amount of money that he earned.
But you're absolutely right. But it's a more nuanced argument to a certain degree. Look, let me go back to the president for a second. He did a very good job of threading the needle. He did a very good job on Tuesday night by saying, you know what? We do not begrudge you for your success. That's the American way. However, you should pay your fair share of taxes. There's no question about it.
I should too, which is
That's
important.
right. However, if you triangulate to Mitt Romney said, I pay my taxes. I pay every single dime that I owe to the federal government, but not a dollar more.
And of course, remember, with 2007, Bain Capital, they were one of the groups who fought against the change in the law. Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa proposed the bill, Republican, and they even said, no. The hedge money lobbyists came down, got that bill killed. Who was one of the people who disagreed with that bill? It was Mitt Romney.
Well, of course, but let me also put it in further context now. What you have is Exhibit A, in my opinion, as the president began laying out that everybody's got to pay their fair share. For those who much is given, much is required. What Mitt Romney was able to say quite legally is that I pay my fair share, but indeed what he's really saying is I pay my legal obligation.
Sure.
But the legal obligation is wrong.
But can I tell you what's hurting
to that, though.
No. But I don't think every American doesn't use the phraseology "my legal obligation." They don't. One second. April. 1 second. Kelly.
Thanks, Roland. Can I tell you what actually I think is hurting Mitt Romney much more than the legality issue, much more than the I pay my fair share issue? It's that he looks into a camera, and no one has written about this, and he keeps saying, "I didn't inherit a dime. I didn't inherit a dime. I didn't inherit a dime. Everything I have, I earned." And people are sitting at home and thinking, your father was a governor. You came from $1 million family. Your father bought your first house. Your father invested in your first companies. And you're saying, I don't want to pay more because I earned everything I have. It falls completely bogus and inauthentic. And that's what's hurting him.
Bottom line is, and let's just make this real simple for the American public. When you go to your tax preparer, you want to make sure you don't have to pay any more than you had. Well, what about this? I just had this renovation done. I just did this. I just did that. So, I mean, he fits into that thing. But again,
actually, most Americans file an easy form, and they don't need to have a conversation about deductions. That's most Americans.
Right. Okay, well, certain people who make above a certain amount, let's say the people, as President Obama would say, the 250,000 plus. Okay,
absolutely,
they're doing that. But going back to what Hilary says, yes, he's paying what the law requires, and he's probably pulling loopholes.
But here's the point. Here's the point. I want Robert to have final 30 seconds on this. I get he is paying what the law requires, but the point the president is making, he is a part of the very group. They have fought and spent millions to prevent the laws from being changed.
That's right.
So when you say, "Oh no, I'm paying, what the law says," but I also have worked hard to make sure I didn't have to pay more. Robert,
I think the interesting thing about all of this is that Mitt Romney is getting stronger in his argument that, look, I'm paying my fair share, not $1 more. I didn't inherit a penny. And it seems like that he's getting much more comfortable. Look, if you rewind a couple of months ago, he seemed like he was very defenf about his wealth.
Of course.
He seemed like he was uncomfortable being rich. And that's okay. I mean, that's
right.
I wish I had his money. But when you fast forward to now that the nomination is slipping away from him, it seems like he's getting much more comfortable with his argument.
I will tell you this here. Bottom line for me is when you got to go talk to those blue collar voters who are white in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and people you said when we said don't bail out GM, and GM now is back to the #1 automaker in the world, it's going to be a hard argument as a rich guy making that point.
And they like the State of the
Got
Union.
it. Hillary,
They like the State of the Union.
I got to go. Hillary, April, Robert, Kelly, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.